Lawson on. We got Pete on. Scott, Larry,
Bob, I don't know about the others, but I can hardly hear you.
we're all here.
And neither can we.
Anybody not here? So. Yeah, I'm turning it up for what that's worth. Now, let me get that other thing on. Maybe that'll help. Back in a minute, Pete. Mr. Hickathur, is that better?
Sound really great, Bob.
Hello, Pete? All right, we'll call this order. I gotta move this. Get on my agenda. There we are. Lyanna, are you present?
Yes, I am, and the meeting was properly noticed.
Very good. Everyone's here. We need a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
I'll second.
Moved by Larry, seconded by Scott to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carried. Minutes from August 28th, 2020. Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion to approve them.
Hickathur,
Second.
seconded by Paul, I think.
Yeah.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 We have moved on to number 6, discuss or act on change orders. Mr. Potter Lawson.
Morning, everybody.
Morning. Okay.
Can someone there relinquish the screen so that we can share that? I think they have to.
Oh,
There we are.
Casey's getting it, he said. I don't know. Can they want to share the screen?
You're host, so you should be able to.
Okay, thank you.
No, we're not. Adams County is a host.
Adams County is still the host, it says.
Should be
said-
co-host.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, let's make you co-host. You should be good.
Ron,
Yes.
Ron,
Bob, you're breaking up.
You're breaking
Ron.
up, man.
Ron, who do you have with you?
Oh, who do I have with me? That's Andy Wallen from our office. He's the construction administrator. I think everyone met him in the last couple meetings, actually.
Okay.
All right. So everyone see the screen right now. All right. Yes. Okay.
Yep.
Before,
Anybody understand, Bob?
You're good. Just keep going.
okay. All right. So the that's up here before we get into the change order. Knows this was something
Yep.
you guys back in March of 2020. This was kind
There
of
we are.
this was our last budget that we presented to the committee and got approved before moving forward with construction. So I want to point out a couple numbers here because it's going to be important as we show you how we're tracking. But this construction cost up total, that number was $4,527,112. The other number I want you to take note of is we always take 5% of that number for owner's contingency, and that's to deal with unforeseen conditions, change orders, and things like that, for an additional $226,000. What that means is right now, the overall construction budget was about $4.75 million, $4,750,000. So just keep that in mind as we go to this next sheet. right. So what this sheet is, and we will update this for every meeting. We like to be very transparent. I'll zoom into this in just a minute, guys. But we like to be very transparent as we work through the change order process and as construction goes on. Get updated every time we meet with you guys, and we'll walk through this so you guys know
Can
exactly.
you make that bigger?
So you will know exactly where we're
There
at.
we go.
All right, that's better.
All right, I'm even gonna get more here in a minute. So what this is, that sheet that I just showed you, that's that project cost worksheet that we presented. That was kind of our guideline, the starting point for where we thought the construction budget would be. So you're gonna see that project cost worksheet from 310. The approved the owner's contingency of 226,000. So that gave you a total for construction during this project of $4,753,468. That was the established budget going into this just prior to us submitting our documents for bidding. So that's always going to be on this sheet. The next component over here that we want to walk through, this right here is how we track it. This was the original contract sum amount that was approved from Vogel Brothers, and that was $4,287,400. Then what we got down here is we break out all the change orders and the dollar amounts, and we have that total of those change orders here. So it's this number plus this number gives us where we're at with the total construction. All right, so this is a worksheet that we always provide on these projects. A very helpful tool for committees to see where the project is at as we track through this process. The goal is not to exceed this number. That's the goal. What that can do is down the line, if there's some decisions to be made, it can help guide you guys in regards to yes or no for some of these change orders. All right. So keep that in mind. So right now you can see we have about $104,000, $105,000 in change orders. And we'll talk to these a little bit more specifically. So right now, the total budget or the total project construction cost right now with the issued changes, the approved changes, is $4,392,181. So we're still about 300+ thousand under our targeted budget, but we just want you to know that's okay. So at the last meeting, we did talk about the first 3 items. Those were talked about at our previous billing committee meeting.
Can you guys hear him consistently? He's kind
Yep,
of jumping in and out for me.
I can hear him.
Okay.
Bobby, you having problems hearing?
Yeah, you're kind of jumping in and out on mine for some reason, and what's that, Larry? No, just agenda. I've got that open. Well, I need to be able to see the agenda. Okay, go ahead, Ron.
Okay. All right. So the 3 items we'll kind of briefly touch base on today is the transformer relocation, the unforeseen partition demolition, and the EF1 upgrade. Andy's going to speak a little bit to those 3 items right now. Talk about those, and please ask questions as we move forward.
So the
Ron, what is the CB1?
CB1 is Construction Bulletin 1. There's some updates and changes. I'd have to pull that up to recall exactly what it was, but it's the first construction bulletin with some updates. That's not that we issued early on, and then they provide an additional cost based on what we have in that construction bulletin. It was provided to Casey and Tabitha as well, so I believe they have it, or you should have access to it. If you do not, I'm happy to send that over to Casey and Tabitha.
So, Bob, one of the things that happens as we move forward with construction is the contractor will send out a loss in RFIs or request for information. In order to respond to some of those things, sometimes those have some dollars associated with it. So we put together construction bulletins to respond to those items. So that's what that is. And it's a variety of different items. As we move forward, that's our way of documenting any construction changes during construction.
Okay.
So then getting to the transformer relocation. So in the last meeting we discussed, we were actually originally putting it out by the street in the right of way. Then based on the committee meeting last month, we decided we were able to put it back up closer to the building to shorten up the length of primary or secondary that we have to do. So in that change order, major associated with that was a generator switching the building on to temporary power. Do you have any questions with that one specifically before I move on?
Do we have questions? Yes.
All right.
All right. First of all, I want a specific answer on the distance, either maximum or minimum or both, from the building that transformer had to be.
10 feet.
No. Okay. Back up. There's a couple things there. 10 feet was the initial requirement as far as the transformer could be closer to any building or opening within 10 feet. That was one. Before a CT cabinet had to be added, which added additional dollars, we couldn't be greater than about 25 feet. As it sits today, we're about 27 or 28. Alliance and people both said that's fine. They don't need to add a new CT cabinet. So it's basically between 10 and 20. Is that correct?
So 27 feet is from the CT cabinet on the building.
Right.
We're actually only 10 feet off of the building footprint itself.
But we're 27, the transformer is 27 feet from the CT cabinet, which is where the service enters the building.
Correct.
The goal is to not add an additional CT cabinet.
All right. That being said, so this 25 feet that we're talking has everything to do with a CT cabinet, not
That is correct.
not from a building, this is from a building.
Right. The closest the transformer can be to a building is 10 feet.
Okay. But then we were told that, all right, the CT cabinet, okay, now that it's over 25 feet, now the Power and Light said it's okay. We're not going to enforce that 25 feet.
Correct.
Hello?
2 feet. It's within a couple feet. It's 27 feet versus 25. That has to do with their runs and still making the cabinet, existing cabinet work. They said that was acceptable.
All right. Well, we have a nice window block view, and afterwards, I mean, enough numbers got thrown around as far as distance and this and that. So we tried to save some money and make do, and come to find out it wouldn't have made hardly any difference. A little bit will save on the wiring that goes to it. It would save on the CT cabinet, and that's it.
So Bob,
It's going to block the view of the windows.
when we had the transformer located out toward the street, the final number that had come in was $97,000. So by putting it back up towards the building, it dropped it down to $79,500. So there was some savings of about $18,000 in that move from the previous option out by the street.
Yeah. All right. I don't suppose we get a do-over on that. So, all right, moving on. Any other questions on the transformer? Yeah, Casey's got something. Maybe.
He just said 69.5. Why is it 79? Or is that the savings we were gonna see?
No.
Say that again?
The amount on here is 79. You said 69, or is that what the savings was from not going out to the sidewalk?
No, the amount is $79,455 to really relocate the transformer within 27 feet of the CT cabinet and 10 feet of either building. That's $79,455. The previous one was headed out towards the street The final bid that had come in for that was 97,000 and some change.
All right.
This relocation saved about $18,000.
Okay. That's where I was confused. Thank you.
Ron and Andy, this is Casey. I just wanted to bring up, we are now on full power. I believe the transition was slated for a week. We ended up, what, 3 days. So hopefully we expect to see a credit back on that change order as a result of that. And then also the generator went down at about 11 o'clock Tuesday evening and was down until about 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock the following morning. So from 8 to 10 to 11 almost, we had the entire courthouse was unable to perform any work. So I just want to make sure that that's credited back and recognized in the change order, what the county doesn't get charged for our losses as well. So can you guys make sure you're working with Dan and RJ to make sure that gets addressed?
Yes, Casey, I will reach out to them right away and start getting that issue addressed, as well as they still owe us a credit for change order number 1. When they relocated the condensing unit, they ended up finding existing lines they could use, so they didn't have to rerun all lines through the floors. So I'm waiting to hear back from that, but I did reach out again, so we should be getting money back on that one as well.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, just let us know and just loop me in on any communications you guys have on that, because that was a significant inconvenience for the county operations period.
Good to know. Thank you. I'll definitely get that information.
Thank you.
So then moving on to change order 5, unforeseen partition demolition. So initially in the drawings, we have demo for contract work. When they started getting into some of these walls, we're talking, looking at 2-foot walls with clay tile. And we have some of these areas that are getting demoed and getting doors cut in and new partitions, added on. So we looked at that number, and based on going on site and reviewing it, there's a lot of saw cutting, wet saw cutting that they were going to have to do in additional work. So we found that number to be within reason. So they're currently working on that now. We have one upgrade. That's a mechanical requirement upgrade per our consultant IMEG, and that was $362. Minor change, but it was required, so that's why that's there. And those are all the change orders we have up to date.
Regarding some of those doors having to be cut in and moved, did you have someone on site that made approval of that, or was that all through this kind of stuff? The Zoom and the computer back and forth.
I'm on site every other Friday, physically on the building, at the building.
That's not a lot. Huh. So all the problems that happen in between, how are they addressed?
So
Is Bill taking care of them here, or?
No, so we had, during the footings, foundations, assistance with structural, our consultant and myself actually went on site during an off week. So if something comes up, I'm up there.
Keep in mind, our office has daily communications multiple times a day with Vogel Brothers. We're constantly back and forth, as we are with Casey and Bill on a daily basis. So it's not like we just show up every 2 weeks to see what's going on. We literally are involved in the project every day.
May I step in, Bob? This is
Sure,
Paul.
go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, they have RFIs, which they have the communication on a daily basis, and then they answer those RFIs, what to do and what not to do to make the corrections. On a daily basis, there's always communication between the general contractor and the architect concerning with the job and how it's progressing. And I think that should solve most of our problems as far as them being on top of any problem that they run across as they do the demo and construction as they go along the project.
Yeah,
I think that's
and
the
Paul,
way,
that
you know,
was the
they're operating.
purpose of the question.
So we had talked about this. We had a couple different presentations about different methods in which we would handle these building projects. We talked about this project, handling it in-house. Specifically, our point of contact is Bill. If you're going to have someone on site 7 days a week or 5 days a week, however much these guys are working, to oversee, that was a significant cost add to the project. And with this being a smaller project, we had determined that we would have Bill and myself filling in. So when there are issues, Bill runs out, checks them out, and then I'll go look at them if I need to get involved as well. So, you know, the bigger issue here is no, they're not on site full time, because every time they're on site, you're paying for it. So we did this as a cost saving measure for the county. Bill was willing to take on those responsibilities for the county. So, you know, with the generator going down, Bill came back in at midnight on Tuesday night and stayed here till, I don't even know what time he did finally leave. 6:30 the next night. So
Which, yeah. No, and Casey, that was not a proposal on my behalf. It was a question. And there was answered, and we will move forward.
I got a question.
All right, Ron.
On number 5, the unforeseen,
I've got a question.
on the unforeseen partition, you said that was still in the process for that amount of money, and it says complete. Just the negotiation part of that is complete, or everything dealing with that is complete? Are we going to see more coming down the line?
There should not be additional unforeseen partition demolition costs coming from Vogel. This change order has been signed off and completed, and this is for all the additional unforeseen partition for those clay tile walls, brick walls, etc. That they found, and wood paneling and so on. So everything that they found, that they've opened everything up.
Yeah.
And everything additional that they found is covered in this change order. So we will not see any more cost regarding this item.
Thank you. That's my question.
And then, Andy, what about the gas service upgrade?
We are working on that currently. That change order is complete, and now we're working on the relocation of that line specifically between the subcontractors, Vogel, and our office right now. So that's still in process.
Okay. Anything else? Paul, you got anything else? You want to
The only
question?
thing I was wondering about, I noticed that there was a release that we have to do something with the plenum in the old courtroom. Is that being being priced right now as far as, you know, the air and everything to flow?
Yes, that's currently in process. We have worked with our consultants and have found a solution for that location, and that is getting worked on currently.
Yeah, so just so we're gonna bring that one up a little later, but just so you understand, right now, outside the court, there's a grill next to the existing courtroom door that spills out into the public corridor. And they're using the corridor as a return air plenum, the old concept. That is not allowed by code today. So we have to put in a chase to take that air up into the ceiling area. So that's something that we are also working on with our consultants and with Vogel as far as getting a correct location and a change order.
You're right. A change order will be resulted once you decide on how you're going to do it. So we've got to realize that's going to come further down the road too.
Correct. Yes, these change orders, they will continue on. I mean, there's no doubt as construction rolls, we try to minimize them. We verify all costs. We have to look at all change order costs, and we actually challenge them on 4 out of the 6 so far. and making sure that they're staying in line, so to speak. So these are ones that have been approved and that everyone's been comfortable with at this point.
Okay, a question for Casey. The RFIs, are they going to you and are you keeping a record of them?
Yes, I have all the RFIs. Actually, all communications include me, Bill, I believe Tabitha, and then Tabitha is logging them into Google Drive. And I believe all the community members have access to that, so you guys can see that through your access on Google Drive as well.
Okay, because I just want to make sure the RFIs are in there because they're an important part of the job, knowing, when they run into problems, that's how they communicate between the contractor and the architect. And so we'll know exactly what's happening. And also, well, we also have we'll have the answers to the RFIs too on file too, right?
Yep, like I said, we're included on all of those. So we do have them, and then also all the CBs are also in there too. So the responses back from Andy to Vogel Brothers, those come out as the construction bulletin. Those are also all available in the Google Drive.
Sounds good. You're doing it really good. I appreciate your answer.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, we're gonna move on then. Project status, some of us have viewed it. Anything you want to add on that, either Casey, Bill, or Ron, Andy?
So structural, they're doing the footings, foundations on the east side of the building for the addition. That has been a heavily coordinated item, which we have worked through. That was one of the daily items that we kind of worked through for the last few weeks with our consultant Vogel on site, and we were on site as off week, going through that as well. Everything should be coordinated, and they have been continuing on, so there has been no holdups from that standpoint. Inside of the building, they're still demoing, they're getting in, we're starting to coordinate a lot of HVAC with our consultants to get this stuff starting to go and get our clean runs and so on and so forth. And we've been working with Bill actually in tandem, since he's on site and he knows the pathways of this building so well, that we're able to coordinate with him and get these answers expedited. So we're currently working on that. Demo they're still cleaning up on site. It's a little messy inside, but as you guys have seen, but we're getting that cleared up and getting our pathways ready for our next phases and steps in the building process. So I think from my end, everything is going well.
This is Casey again. The project's going really good. We're a little bit behind schedule. The footings put us a couple weeks behind. Hopefully the weather cooperates and we'll get that time caught back up. Overall, I mean, this is a renovation project of a facility that's over 100 years old that we're cutting into in some areas, and 20 to 30 years old in other areas. So we knew there was going to be challenges. There's going to be change orders. There's nothing we can do about that. A lot of this is unforeseen. Things happen. I'm very proud of the staff and especially Bill for the way that we handled the generator issue. I think everybody probably got a copy of the email that I sent out, thanking both staff for their cooperation. I mean, really, they lost almost 5 hours of their day, and the public was understanding. So I appreciate all the understanding and cooperation we're seeing out of everyone. This is a process. Hopefully, we're slated to be done here in next June. And get life back to normal for everyone. So just very, very appreciative of how understanding everyone has been. So it's going good. There's going to be hiccups. We know that. The fact that we're able to address them in a calm, collected way and people are being cooperative and understanding is making it a lot easier for everyone. And obviously Bill going way above and beyond, we really appreciate that.
Getting back to the status now, are all the footings or the footings done now? Like, we're waiting on what, one? Or are they all done? Does anyone know offhand?
Andrew?
I do not believe they're all done. I would have to confirm since I haven't talked to Vogel since yesterday.
Looks like they have one more to pour yet, or one or two to pour yet, so.
Okay.
That's my
I think you
understanding.
mentioned it.
I talked to him. So then that is correct.
And then the other thing is with the sandstone, some of that still has to be removed. Is that correct?
There's a very small section on the north side of the existing that they're going to have to cut back to get our pour in. But other than that, and we had that, there was an assumption that there's going to be rock excavation, and really, this is the only excavation that's going to need to be done. Everything else should be below our grade.
Okay. And you're gonna backfill with sand. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Structural fill.
Structural fill.
We have to make sure the footings are sitting on sound material. So.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on the status? All right. Phase 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
You there?
Sorry, I was talking, I was muted. So we've obviously are well into phase 1 now, and the discussion overall, the plan of the committee before was we would have a 4-phase project. Obviously, some of the stuff we've been able to work into the project for phase 1. Just because it fit a little better, but overall the phases are still 4 distinct phases that we're still planning on. So the discussion is just do a quick review of what phases 2, 3, and 4 are. A little bit of the cost estimate. Obviously, once they're designed, we'll have a better idea of what costs will look like. But we wanted to get the committee's input on how you wanted us to proceed. If you want to at this time look at getting those designed up, or you wanted to wait, that's completely your decision. We just looking for guidance on how the committee would like us to proceed, and then ultimately that would go to the county board for final approval. So Ron, if you want to run through the presentation really quick. We have a hard stop at 10:30 as we have another meeting starting.
Sounds good. Thanks, Casey. This presentation here is a presentation that we had presented to the building committee back in 2019, January 2019. So I thought I'd quickly walk through that. Actually, it's been changed from a 4-phase to a 3-phase. Now we can go back and visit the 4-phase also. It's not a problem. We have that presentation also. All right. As you recall, the first part here of the presentation we presented last time was phase 1, which you can see here. This was just a whole courthouse addition that was going on at that location. I won't spend a lot of time on that. We broke down at that time all the items we dealt with in phase 1, and those things are all underway and under construction. And then at that time, we had actually the bubble diagrams and stacking diagrams showing the phase 1 work, which is primarily, you can see the addition here, the public entrance, and the department locations. So I won't spend a lot of time on that. Second floor of the new addition back here, that was the new courtroom. So all that's pretty much happening right now and under construction. So that was phase 1. So the discussion was after phase 1 happened. Phase 2 was about building on a greenfield site to relocate all the administrative departments out of the annex area. And so the site at that time that was being talked about, and I think there was some discussion, early discussions with the village, was this site, which is in the light green here. And just to orient you, this is West North Street. You can see Park Street, Quincy Street. Just down North Street, that's the current Health and Human Services building here. And here's the law enforcement center up here. So the intent was, can we test this site to see if both administrative departments as well as health and human services would work on this site for phase 2. So the study that we did, and again, just to orient you, this is the site wrapping around here like this. This is North Street down below. What we were proposing at that time, and again, this is just a test bit. This doesn't mean the final design or anything. We're testing the site. But the concept was the administrative departments are in this lighter colored here, their volume here. This whole facility would be a 2-story building with about 36,000 square feet for the administrative wing here, about 43,000 square feet in 2 stories for health and human services and vet services at this location. And then between would be a shared lobby, which could also act as your conference center. So in other words, the county board could be in here, any other larger conference spaces. The concept being that when the public comes to this building, you have the ability to screen people at this lobby before entering into the administration area or health and human services. The other concept being that after hours, when the conference center wants to be used, or your boardrooms or in the evenings, you can close off this side and this side so that the public has access to this lobby, conference, or county boardroom conference area, and does not have access to any of these other buildings. The whole idea being to improve security, controlling where the public can go. So that was kind of the preliminary concept here. If we did this, these square footages are based on programming that we had done back in 2016 and 2017 for these facilities. Back in 2017, we did actually go and do all the programming, met with staff, went through the whole programming exercise for health and human services and vet services. And then in 2016, when we were originally doing the master plan study, we had done all the programming for all the county departments, all the administrative departments that would be going here. This site was also testing out parking. We want to make sure we can accommodate parking on the site. That's obviously one of the concerns at Health and Human Services. Health and Human Services, you know, they can get 100+ people a day easily coming in and out of there, and then they've got a large amount of staff there. So this parking layout, and again, it's preliminary, but it was identifying 400 stalls. So between this building, 400 stall parking, there's still plenty of space for expansion on the site. Any detention of water that would have to happen, runoff and things like that could all happen here. And you have the ability to still expand parking. One of the reasons we did on this site, if this is to be the site, we put it more toward the street, so it's more visible, of course. But this back part of the site does have kind of a bit of a rise in it. There's kind of a crest of a hill here. This study was just showing the building kind of at the lower part of that, easier access and things like that. Definitely large enough site to handle this facility and then some. So this latest study that we did in 2019 was to combine phases 2 and 4. Okay, the original concept had building the administrative piece, this part here on this site, and then phase 4 coming back and building health and human services and veteran services. The latest once the administrative departments are relocated to this facility, then phase 3 would occur, which is the remodeling of the vacated annex space for the sheriff's department. So everyone understand that? The admin department move out to the new building on this greenfield site that vacates the rest of the annex. Then the annex will be remodeled. So that was phase 3. And that included the sheriff's department expansion, corporation council relocation, the medical examiner and their expansion space needs, dispatch relocation, and then jail upgrades. Those were done in that 2016 study. If you remember, in 2016, we did the one door move. There are some other components to that study that we would revisit to help with some of the DLC requirements. If you recall back when we were working on that, there were some issues that we had to resolve with the Department of Corrections. So those jail upgrades would be included in this phase 3 also. So
Ron, this is Bob. I don't mean to cause any speculation here, but I thought when I just read in the Friendship Village meeting that there was a proposal for some land use, and it was owned, it's within the village, but it was owned by the city of Adams. Now, I don't know, Pete, if you know anything about that or not, but I was wondering if that was the same property that we were talking about using.
For what, Bob? You proposed for what? I didn't quite catch part of that.
Mr. Gabarsky, I was at that meeting. Can I talk?
Sure.
This is Rick Pease.
Okay,
Yes.
all right, Rick, go ahead.
Alliant Energy is asked to buy through the city because the city of Adams owns that property. They've
Okay.
asked to buy 6 acres on the northwest corner to relocate the substation from up by the dam.
That's what it was. Yeah,
And I think
okay.
I think the village sent that to the planning committee for the village. I wasn't able to stay for the end of that, but that's what the proposal was.
And I think I read those minutes, and I think you're right on target.
Rick, Bob, they're looking at that same site.
Anybody else was interesting something?
It's
I
Pete.
can
you hear me?
hear you.
Yeah, go ahead, Pete.
Rick, is that the same site that they're talking about that we're looking at right now?
It would be the upper left-hand corner, the way I think it was described by the village, because the people like in Godwin Circle were there, and they're going to be upset if they put it there because of the hum from the substation, and that's how the discussion was when I was there.
I wouldn't be thrilled in that subdivision if they put that there either.
All right, that's just something I have to be aware of, but I knew I'd heard something, and so I
And
guess we'll keep
this
that.
is Casey. We've only had very, very preliminary discussions with some city officials on the possibility of this. So, we could look at a different piece of property. The reason why, when we were looking at this before, why this was an ideal piece of property for not only the county, but the village and the city, was that this would give an opportunity to extend water and sewer to that area of the community. There's interest in possibly some housing development south of there, and they don't have the capacity to extend water and sewer at their own cost. So that would be something we would be looking at in exchange for monetary compensation for the property, looking at offsetting some of that purchase cost, because we would incur the cost of getting that property serviced by water and sewer, which would then make that development possible. So we're looking at this as kind of something that was a mutual benefit to all the local units of government, not just Adams County. But if the city decides to sell and that makes the property not work with our design anymore, then that's something we'll go look at a different piece of property. I mean, there's definitely other alternatives. We just felt that this particular piece fit in. We looked at the backside of possibly developing that long-term into like a park, and look at connecting that in. That would give the village another park within its community and connect to the trail down on the city side. So it'd help interconnect the village and the city, and obviously create more of a campus-like feel for our staff and the citizens using our facility. So nothing is set in stone, other than making sure that there's enough area to accommodate what was being proposed by the county. We've got no work, no money into actual acquisition or testing of the property yet. So that's something, if the committee decides to move forward, is something that we would enter into those negotiations and figure out the viability of that property for sure.
Well, quite possibly, if in fact this is a good location or an ideal location, then we may want to try and get an option on it.
Yep, and that's something that we would have to, obviously we're gonna look at what are gonna be the costs of getting utilities over there to us. And then what extra would be incurred to get it down there so that that parcel could be easily connected. And then factoring that into any option that we're put in. So there's a long way before this becomes the property that we go after. We've got to do a lot of work to make sure that it in fact is a viable option for us. But that's part of the discussion today is, do we move forward with those types of things?
Just to let you know, Potter Lawson would definitely do any test site bids, depending on the configuration of that station, and everything like that. We'd want to make sure that the building and the parking and any stormwater requirements would work on whatever parcel is left at that location, or any site for that matter, that you guys choose.
Okay.
This is Paul Pasolini. I think we should reach out to them to find out if this option is still available and if it is, say that we want to consider doing this. And what is our obligation and what will we have to do in order to acquire the property?
I have had talks, I think, within the last 2 months with the mayor, and it's still definitely something they would be willing to consider. But again, until we're moving forward with something, I don't want to commit any of our resources to analyzing it. We did a preliminary elevation to make sure that as Ron kind of indicated, there's that high ridge. We would probably use some of that as a borrow site to get the fill that we would need. Obviously, if they're going to sell off 5 acres of that, that's gonna remove some of that. So, we're looking at, it could help us in some of our trucking costs and things like that. So, once we know what the committee wants to do, we can start having that discussion and then ultimately move forward with the county board to make sure that they're on board before we spend any large amount of resources on this.
Something
Well-
that just came to mind, Casey. I wonder how close the sandstone is to the top of the ground.
Yeah, we want to make sure there's not sandstone right in the middle of the site either.
Yeah, so, once you get serious about it, so you definitely want to at least have a couple test borings done out on site and just kind of get a feel for the soil conditions out there on any site that you guys are.
Well, my thought is maybe the people around there, the residents would like to see that, because especially if we want to develop that end into a park type atmosphere, they'd be more open to that than they would the other project going in there. So that's why I was concerned about maybe investigating and see if we could move in that direction. In order for us to really consider any kind of project, we've got to have some property that we actually going to put it on. Because that's the whole thing. And I think this piece of property is really prime for that. And the longer we wait, like anything else, it'll be gone. So, and then we got to try and scramble for other properties too. So that's my concern.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, can I speak again about the meeting? This is Rick again.
Okay, go ahead, Rick.
One of the complaints that was brought up quite a bit from the citizens there was the ambient noise that was going to come from that substation. They looked at a line had looked across the street in that open area there to put that substation, but Grandy would not sell them any land. And according to what they said at the meeting, that they have an option with the city to purchase that land if they can get the permits. That's all that was said.
Okay. What about the old landfill that's outside of town? Who actually owns that? Is that the cities? Or does anyone know? I don't know.
I know the city and the village are.
We got two people talking, Scott.
I know that the city and the village are sharing the cost of monitoring that. Because it was an old dump, so the first DNR makes them once a year go out there, I think it is, and monitor it, and they're sharing the cost. So I don't know actually who owns it.
Okay. Rick, did you have input?
Yeah, from the meetings, they just recently, about 6 months ago, got a special waiver from the DNR. And they only have to test that well site now once or twice a year. And it's actually 2/3 of Adams and 1/3 of Friendship does it. But I actually do believe it's a City of Adams piece of property.
Okay. All right, just a question if Alliant.
The only thing I'd worry about is environmental, as far as if you go down there and start digging that up, you can't just dig up that dump and remove that material. You know, you're talking, there'd be a lot involved as far as getting permits. And it would take a lot when you start going into a dump in order to remove that land.
Yeah, Paul, we're on a couple different pages here. What I was alluding to was if Alliant was looking for a place to put their, whatever the hell you call it, substation, you know, where there wasn't people, if that was something that they could do. Not, I wasn't talking, you know, regarding the county.
Right, but I'm saying even in their case, once you start digging that up, you're running it. You've got to have all kinds of permits, and they've got to, you know, anytime they dig up that land, there's a problem.
Yeah, but that's not wouldn't be our issue. So
right, but I'm just saying they're going to look at it the same way I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah,
because I've been involved in stuff like that before in the past, and you're really controlled about what you can do with that land, because you got to find special places to get rid of it, and it's a big headache.
You might find collector items, you know. All right, moving right along.
Bob, it's Pete. Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Casey, what's your recommendation we do?
For what, Pete?
Well, moving forward. Should we move forward on this right now? Is that his recommendation?
I think ultimately we need to do some analysis. I think the next phase is, you know, take this in small pieces. I think the next process, if you guys are wanting to move forward, I know there's a lot of concern with HHS. That facility is not up to par in any way. They've already dumped $1 million into it, and that didn't do anything. It actually didn't correct the issues at all. We have put some temporary measures in place. We did get the ice damming to stop. So Bill and his crew did a great job of finding a solution, but ultimately that hasn't fixed any of the real issues out there. So they're just Band-Aids on top of Band-Aids. So I think we need to look at phases 2 and 4 being combined together. And obviously phase 3 would be once phase 2 is complete, which is moving us out of the courthouse and getting the sheriff's department over into that area and getting the other departments the space that they need. So my recommendation is, if you guys do want to move forward with the project, is move forward with doing some analysis and coming up with a preliminary design. I think Potter Lawson's more than capable of doing that. I think they've done a great job on phase 1. I would recommend staying with them for the next 3 phases, and give us the ability to, or authorize us the ability to start having those discussions with the city and potentially other landowners if that piece of property isn't sufficient for our needs. You know, I personally like that property because, to me, if we're going to use taxpayer money to do a big project like this, and we can benefit 2 other municipalities in the process and maybe get some economic development as a result, I think that's a huge positive for everyone. It would benefit both of the communities. So I think that's definitely a consideration we need to keep. But if the committee does want to move forward, I would say we could draft a resolution for the next committee meeting and bring that back for your consideration, authorizing the preliminary preliminary design, so we get more refined estimates on project costs and allowing us to start the siting process with a particular site. It may be this one, it may be something else. I don't know for sure. But at least give us the authority to start into those discussions. Kind of like Paul was saying, get an option possibly on a piece of property and develop some understanding of what the county may pay for something, and also what we may be willing to do as far as extending those utilities a little further than just meeting our needs, but meeting the needs of the community, so they get the development as a result of us doing our project.
Bob,
Yeah,
I'm
go
not-
ahead, Pete.
I'm not gonna repeat all that, but I would make a motion that we move forward with preliminary analysis of that property.
And I can develop a resolution for the next meeting if you guys would like.
And develop a resolution. I mean, that's. we have
How
to make a
many
motion.
acres is that property?
What was that, Scott?
How many acres is that property?
If I remember right, like 26 or so, it seemed like.
Thought it
That's a
was 30.
memory.
30, was it 37, Ron?
I thought it was low 30s.
Yeah,
It was
Okay.
37.
37.
All right.
So if they do cut out that 5 acres in that corner, I don't think it'll affect us too much. And that, but that there again, it's doing the soil testing and everything else. It could become cost prohibitive. We don't know yet at this point.
Yeah, Scott.
For all you know, the city of Adams owns that whole piece, or does the village own some of it?
The city owns all of it, and it is in the village. So North Street is the dividing line between the village and the city. So everything north of West North Street on this map is Village of Adam or Village of Friendship, and everything south is City of Adams.
Okay, thank you.
And that was from who? It was an estate. That's how they got that.
Bert Morris?
Yes,
Bert
this is
Morris.
all Bert Morris property.
So I didn't get a second for that, but I did want to mention a couple things before you go ahead, Pete. We're in the middle of a couple of projects right now regarding the landfill, as well as, of course, our building addition on the courthouse. I'm a little concerned about overwhelming people. I just soon let them get a chance to catch their breath. And I don't think it's pressing to the point that it has to be done immediately, but that's my thoughts. In case you stand up, so I'll turn over to him.
And that's why we're bringing this at this time. What'll happen is once this process starts, there's not a whole lot for the county. We'll have some meetings here and there, kind of like we did in the preliminary design of phase 1. But this project, most of the analysis, the design work, things like that, will be done by Potter Lawson. So it won't be county staff that are involved in phase 1 extensively. So, Bill will get involved, I'll get involved, and then the departments that would be affected would be just giving their input on their needs. And there was a space analysis done previously that helped develop this need and basically refining that a little more. But as far as extensive work on the county's behalf, we're probably looking at, Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, to get to the preliminary where you guys are comfortable, not obviously to construction document phase, you're probably talking close to a year.
Yeah, we could do it faster than that, or to a year. That's probably a little bit long. A lot of it depends obviously on site selection, how fast we move forward with that. But what we would want to do is carry through schematic site plans, schematic floor plans, and then some exterior massing kind of thing for this building. So we can test the site, take it to that level, as well as associated cost estimates for that. Obviously, as we move forward, we want to know what the dollars were. So that would be kind of the level of work we want to do. The county might want to once you select a site, site survey would be important. And as I said, even some preliminary geotech reports, such as getting a couple borings, just so you understand the soil conditions of any site before you actually purchase it.
Okay.
So by the time this project is really kicking up, phase one is going to be wrapping up.
Yes.
All right.
I guess Casey or Bill could probably answer this. Do you know what the square footage right now for the Health and Human Services and the admin have right now?
No, so where the 40,000 and 43,700 square feet came from was there was a space study that was done by Potter Lawson. They met with each department. They talked about current need and future need. What was developed, I believe you went out 20 years,
Casey, we went 10 years. At that
10
time.
years.
Program. I can pull those up again and get those numbers out if you'd like to see those today.
Yeah, if you would real quick.
They're located in two different parts. This one here that you're seeing, this was what was done in 2016. And this had a combination, at that time, we had done every single department. So you can see we have projected out. Well, here's an example, like medical examiner, we'd walk through emergency management. We kind of met and worked with everybody. I'm trying to think. Hang on, let me go back a minute. No, I'm sorry. I'd have to dig into some other files that I don't have access to here. Sorry, guys, I'd have to pull that out from another file.
That's okay.
But what we did was we did the same exercise that we did for the courts. We met with all departments. We walked through Health and Human Services space, photographed it, met with all their individual departments, and broke out their space needs requirements, like the different titles, positions. We then actually looked at projecting out through 2026. So it wasn't, yeah, it was 2016 when we did it, so 2026 at that time. So we probably want to, as a starting point, just briefly revisit that with the departments like Health and Human Services and all the other departments. You know, take a day and meet with everybody quickly. County wanted us to do that, and just make sure those square footage numbers were set. But what we did was then in the area summary, we basically broke out, this one here is just for the courts area, sorry. I don't have access to the others. But same concept, we listed out all the departments, listed out their current space and their existing needs through 2021 and 2026. We always like to design to the latest number out so that the building isn't maxed out when we move in. So there'd be a little bit of fine tuning that, but not a lot with the departments. It wouldn't be the full blown programming process.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Do we want to get phase 2 and 4 started? We have Pete's motion, I guess.
I'll second Pete's motion.
Yeah, a second before we discussed it, but whatever.
I'll second it. This is Paul Pasolini. Did you get me?
Yep, we got you.
Okay, I second it.
Yeah.
Then we could start discussion. We'll vote on it, then start discussion.
I think we've been discussing it. Yep. So we have a motion and a second to see the practicality of this land sources for phase 2 and 4. Scott.
So then it'll be presented before us before it goes to the county board. I take it.
Yes.
Correct.
Yep,
So
goes to this committee.
if you guys do approve this, then we'll bring back a resolution for you guys to approve, and then ultimately recommend to the board to approve moving forward. And if they approve, then we'll look at moving forward with schematic design of phase 2, 3, and 4, and the siting. So this doesn't say we're moving forward with the project. It's the next step of trying to analyze it. You're probably, just off the top of your head, Ron, ballpark, a couple 100,000.
Oh, I'm sorry, for our services?
Yes.
Boy, I'd like to get back to you on that, Casey. No, it's not gonna be that much. It depends on
Okay.
how. Okay, so we offline.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll have a fiscal note in the resolution for you guys to consider as well. But that's ultimately what your costs are going to be doing some testing, the design work by Potter Lawson. And then, if we are able to do just one site and that site works, then your costs can be pretty minimal. If we have to go do testing at a couple different sites, then costs will obviously be elevated to accommodate that. But that's ultimately what you guys are looking at to get to the point where you'll know an estimated project cost, timeline, all that, to make a final decision on.
And Casey, prior to the next meeting, we definitely want to get you that information. As far as
Yep. And we'll start working on that. If you guys want to start putting some cost estimates together for me, because I definitely need that before we can have a resolution.
And what I'd like to do, Casey, is prior to that, is sit down and make sure we're on the same page as far as scope of that study.
Yep.
There is a soils map for the county. And there's also, I would assume you'd have buildings next door to this that would give you some sort of indication what is underneath. So anyway.
Yes.
Any other discussion regarding the prep work? Lyanna, did you get something down for a motion? If you did, can you repeat it?
Ickathir moved to have a resolution authorizing preliminary design and site.
It sounds good. You did well.
Seconded by Pizzolini. I'm just waiting for the vote.
Okay.
My question is, we're just gonna name it phase 1, phase 2?
2, 3, and 4.
4's in there, is it?
When you go 2, 3, and 4, you're also doing the police, redoing that building at the same time. I think we should just concentrate on the construction for the main building, the Health and Human Services, the administration, and the county community building as one phase. And we leave the police as another phase.
I think that's phase 2, isn't it?
Just hold
Phase
on.
3.
That's phase
Um,
3.
Casey,
Yeah.
hold on, Diana. Casey's got input.
The only objection I would have or recommendation for you guys is to keep them together for the simple fact that you would do one bonding. So to get the bond proceeds, you're going to save several $100,000 in bond and finance costs and issuance costs by having the projects combined, because otherwise you're going to look at 2 separate bondings to fund these projects, and that's going to drive the costs up substantially before we even get started.
Okay,
The verbiage was preliminary.
Correct. But if we're going to analyze all of them together, and then you guys decide you want to move forward with the project, if we break break them into two separate projects, you're gonna have to do two bondings to fund that.
Okay, all right.
And we can always break
So
them
we'll
out
just-
after the fact if you want to do
Right.
that.
Well, that's what I'm concerned about. But I see where your point's coming from, so I'll agree to that. So,
All right, Leanne, leave them in there as 2, 3, and
Okay.
4.
Okay,
All right.
okay.
Any more
And my
discussion?
only question is, the preliminary drawing that you already have, are we sticking with that, or are they gonna redesign something different?
Oh,
Speak-
again, this
You know,
is just-
you've already got it
it's
drawn
very-
up, and what I'm gonna say is we're gonna keep that the way it looks, or is there gonna be a different design?
That was preliminary, Paul.
Well,
Again,
that's what and preliminary means you would change it. Right now, we already got something that we paid for. We've got it, you know, it gives the, you know, everything's broken down, the square footage for each building and the parking and everything else. No, we're gonna keep that the way it is, and that's what he's gonna work on? Or are we talking about a different design?
I just don't want to get the cart ahead of the horse here.
Well, if he's gotta design something or give us something, he's got, you know, do we gotta keep the way it is, and then it makes it easier for us and it's less costly? Where we-
I think for the,
Larry Brewer's got the floor.
Okay,
I think for the time being, we'll keep it like it is. I mean.
sounds good. I agree,
That
I
way
agree.
They don't have to do any more.
And that design is what we asked for. And the reason we have the design that we have, the thought was to minimize cost to the county in building. That's why we there's going to be multiple conference rooms to include the big boardroom for the county board, but it would be in a location instead of having, you know, right now administration, we've got multiple conference rooms plus the boardroom. Health and Human Services has multiple conference rooms as well. It's space that is very important, but not necessarily space that gets used every day by everyone. So this allows us to build that space once and not have to replicate it in different facilities. So it'd be able to be shared the way it's designed now, and that ultimately would bring down building costs as well.
Yeah, the reason I say that is it's a good design. And then we know how big the property we need is that in order to put that design on. So that when we go look for land, we know exactly, you know, the amount of land we need. This way here, we've already have it drawn up. So I think it was well done. And I suggest that we keep to that.
So, excuse me, Bob, this is Ryan. Can I speak for a minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so you're right in saying right now this is a concept. It was to test the site. The major concepts about splitting the buildings and having the conference center in the middle makes a lot of sense moving forward. But I think if we start analyzing different sites, the configuration of the building might have to change depending on the land configuration, correct? And how the building is accessed. Those are things that we typically study as we move forward with this next site analysis step.
Okay. All right. I think we'll proceed to vote. All those in favor of drawing up that was a resolution. Or,
resolution.
what are you bringing for? Resolution. Yeah. Okay, all those in favor of bringing the resolution up to the October meeting, please say aye. I have one
Aye.
in favor.
Aye.
Two. I think we have everyone. Okay. Very good. That will pass. Okay. Anything else on that? So we have that for an upcoming agenda item. Other than that, anything else? Let me know, let Lana know, let Casey know. Concerns. Just a quick question for you, Paul. You've are okay with the change orders that, I mean, you've been updated with them and everything's going good for you?
Yeah, yeah, I can get online. She gave me how you can get on and all the change orders. So yeah, it's good. I just
Okay.
gotta check and make sure the RFIs, where they're located. I'll check those, but so far it looks really good.
Okay, and you can get that through Tabitha, so. all
Right.
Pete, everything good with you?
Good.
All right. Next meeting date,
October 30th.
I'm looking. All right, and come in costume. All right, so October 30th at 9 o'clock.
Sounds good.
Okay,
good.
sounds good. We will adjourn at 10:22.
Thanks,
You're all-
Andy. Thanks, Ron.
Okay, have a good day.
Yep.
You guys-
You too.
Thank you.